If you have never been exposed to non-duality before, or you hold beliefs that seem to be in conflict with it, um, there can be a lot of resistance that comes up with some of these ideas. So, my intention here is to start from zero and to try to cover some of the sort of pitfalls that I experienced on my earlier part of the journey, where I was looking outward for an answer. So, first of all, non duality is often thought of as a religion or a philosophy. And I understand that a lot of non duality teachers do a lot of talking, but ultimately it comes down to one thing. When we go within, when we go beyond all the appearances of our lives, the sensations, the way things look, the way things seem to sound, when we really get in touch with the fact that this body is limited in its ability to take that in, we're kind of humbled enough to go beyond what we have thought that we know about life. When we do that, we start to really see life unfolding as it actually is. And when that happens, we start to be who we really are. We return to that effortless, joyful, happy state without judgment, where we just want to experience everything. So children show a lot of this. They also show a lot of the sort of young human traits, but they show this kind of boundless joy, this quick to love, quick to accept, quick to sort of change gears, kind of way of being. And then as adults, we close off, we hold things to us, we say, my beliefs define me. So if somebody doesn't hold the same beliefs, that's threatening to me. And so that other is now my enemy. When we do that, we cause suffering to ourselves. We are going to live in this world as human beings and experience the chaos of a constantly changing world, no matter what. So there is pain. There's a pain experienced in that. Whether we suffer is our choice. And I'm taking this from the Buddha. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. That's what that means. So if we start from the beginning, we're talking, what is non-duality? If we take the Sanskrit, the original term for this, Advaita, we have A meaning no, and Dvaita meaning two. So there are not two of us. There are no two things. There is consciousness, also called awareness, also called God, though that comes with lots of connotations. And that consciousness is vibrating into shapes and patterns and forms, and everything that we see and hear before us, all of it is vibration. I think a lot of us forget this. We think everything is solid. We think it's all exactly what it appears to be. Sound is the easiest one. We know that that's vibration. But ultimately, the human body's receptors are only able to take in so much. And yet, humans live within the delusion that we can conquer things, that we can use our minds to learn everything about the world. And this only perpetuates more suffering because we're attaching to outcomes that are beyond our control, that are out there. And we can go within, realize who we truly are, realize that in there being not two things, all of this is one thing. Consciousness has dreamed up this kind of virtual reality. All of this is made of energy, and it's the same energy across the galaxy. So, how can you believe this? Why should you believe this? You do not need to believe this. Non-duality is not based on any beliefs whatsoever. A lot of the talking that's happening is kind of talking around this one thing that must be proven to ourselves through direct experience. Once you have come to experience directly, without filter of the mind, your own wholeness, all other delusions begin to fall away. And you can come at this another direction, which is that if you have a lot of resistance around the idea that we're all one, you can start by simply dropping beliefs that no longer serve you, that cannot be confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt. Anything that is open to interpretation, that depends upon our sensory understanding, our perceptions, all of that we can begin to let go of. And so, what this ends up looking like is living in a kind of clean way, without delusion, without opinions, with a much fewer thoughts, because the mind will not be constantly running in service of maintaining these false beliefs. And that includes the belief that we are separate individuals with these selves that we need to protect. When you realize that you are actually observing this pattern, this vibrating shape, this form of a human playing out this kind of role based on cause and effect, you see that all people are just characters kind of exchanging and trading beliefs and ideas. You see, okay, when I, the human, was born into this world, I had a kind of clean understanding, and then I took on all these ideas from around me based on what I thought would keep me safe. This is just the kind of karmic comings and goings of the human experience. You are experiencing being a human, but you are not human. You are in the world, but not of the world. You are an infinite being who has willingly chosen to play this game on earth and elsewhere. And the intelligence that it took to create this game with so much depth and multiple dimensions is beyond the understanding of the human mind. It can easily be seen as non-duality, saying, this is the one answer, this is the one kind of way, in the idea of I know this secret that nobody else can know, or I've earned this sort of happiness that other people can't have. This is the way that the ego, the aspect of the mind that has only its own interests, the interest of preserving itself, its sort of survival at heart. So the ego is always going to see things that way, always going to look for trouble, always going to try to protect, because it is just a part of this game that is programmed, designed to do this. Consciousness, awareness, is able to see through this. When there is a break from the mind, and this doesn't mean the mind has to stop, but you can choose to no longer buy into the mental activity, the thoughts. When you do this, the power of the thoughts begins to diminish, and you get a break. Often, when you let go of one belief, you'll feel this kind of elation, this joy and freedom. So, if I hold the belief that people can't be trusted, there's no way to prove that. That's not true across the board. And yet, if the mind is repeating that to me all day, my body is going to show signs of that. My heart is going to tense up. I'm going to clench my jaw, maybe, or kind of fold forward and protect. When I let go of that belief, when I simply say that cannot be proved as true and it doesn't serve me, I no longer wish to see the world this way. I become free from that. And all the thoughts that are in service of that belief lose power, because when they come up, we don't believe them. So we're not putting our energy into that. So we have this one simple thing that does not require putting faith into this thing and cannot be proved scientifically in the outside world. But ultimately, if you let go of thought, this is the same thing that has been realized by sages and spiritual teachers within the understanding of non-duality for thousands of years. Once we have this one truth deeply understood with a felt sense, we've experienced it within ourselves. And it goes beyond senses, and so it can't be misunderstood. Once we have that down, we see that that is only the tip of the iceberg. That when we live life as our true self, everything else changes. All that is false begins to crumble. We're able to see life with greater discernment. And people don't affect us the same way. We no longer need to protect a small self. We no longer live in fear of the body's end, because that's not our end. With this, all resistance drops. We no longer live life saying, I really need to live by the ocean before I die for my life to be worth something. I really need to take on the profession that my parents want me to, or I need to make them happy some other way for my life to be worth it. You realize that there is nothing outside of yourself, your true self. There is no other. We have all mistaken who we truly are, and that is the source of our unhappiness. And so when others are unhappy with things that we do or expect things from us, We no longer need to take that personally. We understand the shared delusion, the shared suffering that it is to identify as a human. When you understand that we are all simply mistaken in who we really are, and that this creates immense suffering for all of us, there's no longer any sense of ownership over your pain. It's not, this is my pain. My pain is worse than your pain, and I need to keep walls up to keep you out, to keep you from causing more pain. We simply realize that pain happens in life. And the absolute best thing we can do, the best way we can live, is to be open to life exactly as it is. We are infinite. We chose to play the game of playing finite characters. When things happen to the finite characters, nothing happens to the screen upon which the movie's playing. And that screen is us, the space and the silence upon which all of the sound and the forms are arising is our true identity. This sounds far-fetched to many, and yet the moment the mind stops asking questions, stops saying, you're talking in circles. Every time I'm on a journey like this, I get these answers from these teachers that just send me in another direction. All of that is outward. All of that is the attempt in vain to attain happiness outside of yourself. You are it. You've taken on extra things which drain your energy and take you off of the path that you would follow if you simply did what made you happy. And that's what we're here for. We're here to play. This is divine play, called Leela in Sanskrit. We are playing, but we've forgotten that that's what we're doing. So when we remember, life becomes play again. And we know that even in periods where suffering seems completely pervasive, and all humans just seem to be sharing it back and forth with various sentiments, we can break from that any moment. One of the most harmful lies that we can tell ourselves is that we require something outside of ourselves to be happy. When we say that, we make it so. We are going to close off to the happiness that is within us. We're going to overlook it every time because we're going to be trained to look outside. When we look outside, we will always be disappointed because everything's always changing. But who we truly are is the complete opposite of what we see outside. It is unchanging. It doesn't die. It doesn't judge. It is the refuge. It is our refuge in this world to come back to ourselves. And that term is used in Buddhism quite a bit. We take refuge within our true self. And along this journey, we'll call it a journey, but this time it's an inward journey to ourselves. We're taking all these extra bits. We're like carrying around all these bags and we're letting the bags go. On this inward journey, which really doesn't cover any distance. It's just right here. It's always been right here. And we can realize this any moment. The only thing holding us back is our resistance to what we hear, which is just the ego trying to stay alive. But along this journey, we may experience incremental sort of progress in that the mind doesn't want to let go of beliefs. And so we have to work one by one. And maybe we need to work to release one belief multiple times. It keeps coming up for us, maybe a little less powerful each time, and we just keep working toward that. But ultimately, there may be a kind of gradual process. And perhaps suddenly in the middle of that, we'll have a deep realization. The mind will sort of quiet, or we will get some other kind of break from it, some kind of breakthrough to where our true nature will be fully understood, not by the mind, but by ourself. And if that happens, and if it stays, suddenly our entire life changes. Even the physiology of our bodies can change within the kind of parameters of the physics that we're living in, that we live with. Often what we would call miracles will occur, miracles in healing from dis-ease that is supposedly terminal. But sometimes we have come into this world with some kind of dis-ease that is with us for the entirety of our lives. And within that, what we're here to do is to learn to be happy despite that. It's part of our maturing within this little package of awareness that's filtered through this mind. So that this awareness filtered by this mind only kind of is right now having the experience of this human. And through that experience can learn lessons that end up kind of going back to the original source. And what I'm saying right now could be sort of open to interpretation. And this is something that you end up having a felt understanding of and knowing of within your true self when you begin to deeply understand who we really are and what we're doing here. But ultimately, our liberation from suffering is completely up to us. The amount of time that it takes is completely up to us. And I mean the true self. When the human being recedes, when we identify less as the human being, we become more of what we really are. So it's like delusion is released, and that leaves spaciousness, which is automatically filled by that which we truly are, our effortless nature. And living as who we truly are is always effortless. So if we think life is suffering and life has to be hard, we have to work really hard to make enough money to feel comfortable or to meet certain goals, we're going to perpetuate that. We're going to gravitate toward activities with certain capacities that will show us exactly this thing that we have trained our thoughts on. When we're able to go beyond that, life becomes effortless. It reflects the effortlessness that is within, the degree to which that is being understood, being realized. And so, with this, we no longer need to live life thinking that this is a nonsensical place where we suffer and we die, and there's no point to any of it. And ultimately, the universe is an unfriendly place. Instead, we begin to realize that none of this matters in the best way possible. That when the body passes away, nothing happens to us, nothing happens to consciousness. And that this universe was made from love, love and joy and spaciousness. And as soon as we can return to what we truly are, that universe will reflect that love and joy and spaciousness.